We're here with Craig Thompson, the creator of Habibi. Thanks a lot for meeting with us.
Yep, my pleasure.
Now, first, you were known for a very small book called Blankets, nice little light trim book. So you decided to match that again with Habibi then. This is what, 672 pages? Is that what I hear?
Yep, 672.
And
Sorry about my voice. It's 3 days of Comic-Con. I've totally lost it.
You got 2 days to go, too.
I know, in a panel.
So tell us a little bit about Habibi. What is this massive story?
It's an Arabian Nights style epic in Shahrazad's tradition of one story folding in upon another in a very sort of Arabian Nights landscape of deserts and harems, but also mashing up with modern industrial clutter. And it revolves around two characters, sort of an apocalyptic love story between a prostitute and a eunuch, escaped child slaves that sort of have to raise themselves in the desert.
And so where is the overall location of this?
It's a fairy tale Orientalist landscape. It's out of place, out of time, but sort of like a fairy tale version of the Middle East.
Okay. What was your inspiration for this? Other than the Arabian Nights, I mean, where did you get this idea for this story?
The inspiration is the frustration that is always born out of finishing a previous project. So with Chunky Rice, I was really sick of drawing little animals, so I wanted to do something that was sort of slice of life with humans. Then after drawing, 600 pages of myself in this sort of rural Midwestern landscape, I wanted to do something bigger outside of myself. And I was debating two directions, either a like fantastical sort of Lord of the Rings epic, or something more socially, politically relevant, like Joe Sacco's work. And I met somewhere in the middle, and that's Habibi.
So what kind of research did you do for this?
A lot. But the research was similar to the way that the story is constructed. I was describing how Shahrazad's sort of storytelling technique of one story folding in on another. The story sort of started out simple, but then I just started projecting off on tangents. And that's what excites me, I think, in storytelling is the point where you can ramble and diverge.
And so your art approach, you said, was not necessarily your approach, but your technique was a little bit different with this, where you weren't doing the little animals, you weren't doing the realistic, people. What did you do different to create this?
Probably the most notable difference is all the ornamentation and geometric design. And I was drawing, inspiration from Islamic and Arabic art. But those were very time-consuming processes. None of it's created on computer, other than sometimes I would kind of construct the layouts in Photoshop, but then draw them by hand and with a brush. And those are very tedious, time-consuming, but also a little bit mind-expanding sort of process.
Yeah, this has been a long process for you. I mean, you've been sort of teasing this and showing bits and pieces of this for a while. Was it just it kept growing and growing and growing on you, or did you have the overall story planned out and just artistically it was taking you that long to produce it?
Both. So it did keep growing. I thought it would be a 200-page book. I thought it would take a couple of years. And as I write, I don't, this is actually a lot more condensed and dense than Blankets. Blankets was meant to be very spacious and breathable and sort of minimalist in its own way. This is very dense, and so I had to edit it down and keep it shorter. But at the same time, I didn't really limit myself. I filled up the pages I needed to fill up to tell the story I wanted to tell. So I never limit myself in that sense.
So those stories that you sort of had to X out, are those just sort of off to the side for a little bit and get folded in somewhere else, or are there going to be little just sort of, I don't know, niblets here and there for them?
That's just a natural part of my writing process is I discard hundreds of pages, and they're roughly drawn. They're not final art. And I did at least 10 versions of the ending. So that's about 1,000 pages at least of thumbnailed work that I discarded. And I kept it. So I don't know, maybe 20 years from now I'll release like the director's cut. But, that's just for me a big part of the process. is creating things that you then remove.
So you said that you had sort of two ideas and they met in the middle here. Now that you've done this, the pressure's back on you for what's next. Have you taken a breath and started to look forward yet as to what's next?
There's never a lot of room to take a breath when you finish. Joe Sacco is a great inspiration and friend of mine, said that when you finish a book, it's sort of like dental work, because then you have to tour the book and sign it and do interviews and whatnot. So it's really hard to have the space to work on something new. That said, I've got 3 projects I want to work on.
Okay.
And as soon as I can carve out that space, like a little bit of time at home, I want to get started. And I'm a little secretive about what they are, but I can say that they're like 3 very different books rather than pour all my energy into one project. I want to do a book that's geared towards children or all ages, and then a book that's a nonfiction book, and then an erotic book. Those are the 3 I'm more writing in my head than anything right now.
That's quite the range there. Are you simultaneous working on them, or just kind of?
Well, another inspiration and friend in comics is David B. in France, and he says he recommended always juggling at least 2 projects, because then you never really get bored or oppressed creatively. You always have, so you can kind of decide morning by morning where you're going to focus your energies. And with blankets, I was doing so much freelance illustration work, about 50-50. So I was always switching it up. It kept me really spry. So I'm hoping to apply that method with the next set of books, to just have a bunch to juggle.
All right. Well, hey, thank you very much for meeting with us. We'll let you give your voice a rest here. 2 days of the con to go. You can make it. Lots of hot tea and lemon.
That's what I'm doing.
And
lozenges.
Look forward to Habibi. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's an honor.